There's someone in your life who roots for you, but not quite that much. You can feel it. You can't quite explain it, but you feel it. That compliment that arrives a little too late. That silence when you accomplish something. That smile that doesn't reach the eyes. You're not crazy. You're reading it right. And Nietzsche, one of the most brutally honest philosophers who ever lived, spent his entire life trying to warn you about this. He said that envy is not a simple feeling. It is a life philosophy disguised as friendship. And the envious person doesn't act randomly. They observe. They study. They measure. There are 5 specific things they always monitor in you. And once you understand what they are, you'll never look at certain people the same way again. Let's go deep on this. The first thing the envious person watches is your silent progress. Not what you've already achieved. What you are achieving right now, before everyone else finds out. Nietzsche wrote that weak men fear not the roaring lion, but the lion that is still growing. Because the lion that already roared, already frightened, already dominated, he has become part of the landscape. You learn to live with him. But the lion that is growing strong right now, that one is a real threat. That one can still be stopped. And that is exactly what the envious person thinks when they see you evolving. They notice when you start waking up earlier, when you stop complaining, when you disappear from pointless conversations, when you start talking less and doing more. They notice before you even notice that you're changing. And it's at that moment that they act. Not with direct aggression, because they don't have the courage for that. They act with a subtle comment, with a planted doubt, with a "do you really think that's going to work?" said in just the wrong tone. The goal is simple: make you stop before you take off. So protect your process. Not out of paranoia, out of strategy. Your growth doesn't need an audience while it's still happening. The second thing the envious person watches is your self-confidence. And here Nietzsche digs into something that makes many people uncomfortable. He said there is a type of person who builds their own identity on top of diminishing others. Not on top of what they've achieved, but on top of what the other person lacks. It's the classic, at least I didn't fail like that. At least I don't have that problem. At least I. This person cannot bear to see you at peace with yourself. Because a secure person doesn't need their approval. And if you don't need their approval, you can't be controlled by them. And if you can't be controlled, you are a threat to the narrative they've built about the world. The narrative that nobody is worth anything, that nobody is better than anyone else, that everyone has the same dark basement they do. So they will test your self-confidence. They'll make jokes that push the line. They'll question your decisions in front of others. They'll minimize your achievements with an, "Oh, but anyone could do that." And when you react poorly, they'll say you're too sensitive. When you don't react, they'll double down. What to do? Nietzsche is clear. Don't justify yourself to those who don't deserve your explanation. Your confidence doesn't need to be proven. It needs to be lived. The third thing the envious person watches is your circle. Who is by your side? Who supports you? Who believes in you? Because the envious person knows that a man surrounded by the right people is nearly impossible to bring down. So they don't attack you directly. They attack your relationships. They plant doubts about the people around you. Did you hear what so-and-so said about you? Sometimes it's a lie. Sometimes it's a half-truth taken out of context. But the goal is always the same, to isolate you. Because an isolated man is a vulnerable man. Nietzsche called this behavior resentment in its most strategic form. It's not blind rage. It's rage with method. It's the rage of someone who can't climb up, so they decide to pull others down instead. And the cruelest part, they'll do it while acting like they care about you. I'm telling you this because I care. I'd rather you hear it from me. Always with that tone of false concern that makes you feel like you should be grateful. Protect your bonds. Filter who you let into your life and into your ear. Not every piece of information that reaches you is actually information. Sometimes it's poison packaged as advice. The fourth thing the envious person watches is how you handle pain. This one is dark, but it needs to be said. The envious person waits for you to fall. And when you fall, they watch with clinical attention to see how you react. Because if you get back up quickly, they grow angry. If you take a long time, they feel a relief they will never admit out loud. Nietzsche said that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Everyone knows that line, but few know the context. He was talking about the human capacity to transform suffering into fuel. And he said that this capacity, when genuine, is unbearable to those who chose the path of resentment. Because the resentful person also suffered. The difference is that they used suffering as an excuse. And when they see someone who used that same suffering as a lever, they don't feel admiration. They feel hatred, because you prove, simply by existing, that their choice was wrong. So when you fall, and you will fall at some point, be careful about who you show your pain to. Not because you need to be strong all the time, but because not every outstretched hand wants to help you back up. Some want to watch you stay down a little longer. The fifth thing the envious person watches is your peace. This is the most important one, and the one that irritates them the most. You might not have everything. You might not have the best car, the highest salary, the perfect relationship. But if you wake up in the morning at peace with yourself, if you know who you are and where you're going, if you don't need a stage to feel whole, that, to the envious person, is intolerable. Because they don't have that. No matter how much they achieve, no matter how much they accumulate, no matter how much they show off, they don't have peace. And deep down they know that the problem isn't what's missing on the outside. It's what's missing on the inside. Nietzsche said that the man who cannot bear solitude also cannot bear himself. And the envious person is, above all, someone who cannot be alone with their own thoughts. That's why they need so much to be involved in other people's lives. That's why they watch. That's why they compare. That's why they interfere. Your peace is your greatest shield. And paradoxically, it is also what draws the most attacks. So what do you do with all of this? Nietzsche was not a philosopher of easy answers. He would not say forgive, understand, have empathy. He would say, know the battlefield, know who you're dealing with, and build your life in such a way that the envy of others becomes nothing more than background noise. This is not about paranoia. It's not about going through life suspicious of everyone. It's about discernment, about knowing the difference between those who genuinely celebrate your victories and those who merely tolerate them, between those who are happy when you grow and those who go very quiet when you grow. You have that radar. Every person does. The question is whether you'll trust it or keep ignoring it just to avoid conflict. Nietzsche said that the greatest cruelty a person can commit against themselves is to pretend not to see what they can clearly see. Stop pretending. Watch who watches you, and choose consciously who deserves to be close to what you're building.